So I finally watched Gilmore Girls for the first time, and I have thoughts. Yes, I know I'm 2 decades late. Hey, I'm Lizzie. Welcome to Pass the Popcorn, where we deep dive into characters, movies, and all things pop culture. Today is all about Gilmore Girls, a full series review from a first time viewer. Let's get into all the small town drama, the rapid fire dialogue, the quirky characters, and yes, the infamous Team Jess versus Team Dean. The a year in a life, the how do you say this? The Netflix special A Year in the Life that came out will not be included in this review. I have heard such mixed things on it, and so I just wanted to leave space for the original series. We're only going to be reviewing that today, and then I will watch that later and we'll do a whole video on that. But I wanted to film this video without that influencing my opinion. This is Pass the Popcorn. Let's break it down. So, why am I 2 decades late to watching this show? I have no idea. I just never watched it for some reason. My mom and my sister are huge fans of the show. Huge fans. In fact, I remember one Christmas, I got my mom for Christmas all the box sets of DVDs from every season of the show. And she just loved them. She always watched them. For some reason, I had just never watched it. I think going into the show, I always knew it was a mother-daughter relationship set in a small town. I mean, it's infamous. And then I knew it had something to do with fall. Because everyone posts every November and fall, Gilmore Girls season, it's time, anyways. The opening is like the orange leaves with the font and the small town, and it always feels like it's set in fall. And I think every season has a fall in it. I could be wrong on that. But so I just knew that's like the basis that I knew. So I finally decided to watch it because I was on maternity leave. So I just wanted a show to watch. And I had tried watching it multiple times. In fact, I think I have seen the first 5 episodes like 4 times because I kept trying to get into it and watch it, and I just couldn't get into it. Finally, we were at a family reunion, and my sister-in-law said, "You should watch Gilmore Girls." And I was like, I have tried, I can't get into it. Like, it's really hard for me. But this sister-in-law, I literally will trust any movie recommendation that she gives me. And so I was like, I went home and I was like, all right, I'm going to try it. Because she told me I should watch it and I trust her. So I just sat down and watched it one day. I do need to preface that today's video will have spoilers. I can't talk about the show without talking about the whole show. So if you haven't seen it, go watch it, come back, watch this video, but this video will contain spoilers. Honestly, my initial thoughts are that I loved it. I loved it. I immediately fell in love, which I shouldn't say immediately, right? Because it took me a couple times to get into it. But once I was into it, man, you just love the show. The tone, the pacing of the show, the whole vibe, I was just obsessed with. I personally am a small town girl. Like, I would choose to live in a small town rather than living in a city. So Stars Hollow was like my dream. Going into like a little coffee shop where the person knows your order and you're friends with them and you know everyone in town. Loved. I loved the vibe of the family dynamic and the mother-daughter relationship that Lorelai and Rory have. I thought it was super special. The way that Lorelai talks, she's very fast-paced and she talks really fast, and it's very hard to keep up with her. Yes, I had to watch the show with subtitles because sometimes it was super fast and I couldn't understand. But man, it was just so lovable. You just love everyone right off the bat, including all of the side characters. I didn't feel like there was a character wasted on the show. From Kirk to Babette to Miss Patty and Luke and everyone who lives in the town, you just love and adore them so much. And I just love that. Honestly, the show kind of felt like a time capsule because it was filmed in the early 2000s, and seeing them go from no cell phones to all of a sudden they have cell phones near the end of the show, and the fashion and just all the news things that are going on and everything that's happening, it really felt like a time capsule. It felt very cozy, kind of like getting a hug from the early 2000s. Let's be real. The shows that came out in the early 2000s were prime. So this is the prime example of the gold that came out in the early 2000s. But really, the whole reason you love the show so much is because of the characters. Lorelai and Rory obviously carry the show, and they're the main characters of the show. The show's all about them and their mother daughter relationship, right? So you have to love them. But apparently, a lot of fans don't love Lorelai or Rory, which I can understand why. Like, they have very severe dark moments, and then they have their very amazing highs as well. And so it can be very easy to love and hate them at the same time. However, I do feel like their arcs were very realistic. Lorelai, I just adored Lorelai. Yes, she made so many mistakes throughout the show, but I felt like that's kind of what made her endearing. She made so many mistakes, but I do feel like she learned from those throughout the seasons. Something that I really did love about Lorelai's character, though, was how feminine she was, while also being an entrepreneur and a mom. And I just thought that was really admirable. And also wanting a man in her life and wanting to be married. I loved her femininity, and I just thought that was very admirable. I thought she was a very admirable female character to look up to at times. There are other times I was like, oh, what are you doing? Um, like every time Christopher came back into town. But for the most part, she was very admirable. Her and Luke as well, I felt like grew a lot. Obviously, they are just flirty and friends in the beginning, and then season 4 they get together, and then they go through rough patches like every couple does, but they go through a really bad one. And when she sleeps with Christopher the night she thinks her and Luke broke up, and then he comes back saying, I want to marry you, she tells him right in the moment, I slept with Christopher. And I felt like season 1 Lorelai would not have done that. So I felt like that was a lot of growth. She shouldn't have gone and slept with Christopher. She should not have done that. That was like bad move. But the fact that she told Luke about that, she could have ran back to Luke. They could have had a happily ever after. They could have been sealed the deal, right? And she just would have hoped he never found out. And I feel like season 1, season 2 Lorelai may have done that. But she didn't do that. She was honest with him. And I think that's because she loved him so much. But I loved Lorelai so much. I do think as a mother, she's maybe not the best mom. She was more of a friend to Rory than she was a mom, which you saw that really affect Rory whenever Lorelai did try to mother her. Rory did not take it very well because she's not used to that, right? So she struggled with that line because she was trying to be the opposite of her mother, and ended up becoming more of a friend to Rory. I just had a soft spot for Lorelai. Now, Rory, on the other hand, I felt like I did not have a soft spot for, and I don't know why that is. Season 1 through 3, Rory, her Chilton era, so to speak, she is great. She's very studious. She's very smart. I feel like she's depicted as this perfect child, which is why Lorelai really doesn't have to parent her much, because she's really the perfect kid, right? When she graduates and goes to college and chooses to go to Yale, which, plot twist, I still don't understand that decision fully, but she went to Yale. But once she goes to college, I just felt like she really lost herself. She lost her confidence. She kind of had to figure out where she fit in the world. And that was a very hard discovery for her. So it was kind of heartbreaking to watch Rory's, I call it the rise and fall of Rory Gilmore. because it was very hard to watch. She really went through a lot of realistic, like finding yourself, and she went through a lot of hard trials, honestly. She ends up overcoming, and I feel like one of my favorite episodes is the redemption. She reunites with Lorelai, and they have this sweet moment, and literally made me cry. But up until that point, you're just like, Rory, what are you doing? And you really struggle watching her. Emily and Richard were two of my favorite characters on the show. That is such a controversial opinion because I know they are tough to love. And they don't offer love very freely. You can see that with how they treat Lorelai. They just don't know how to show love, which is very interesting, and they don't know how to receive it. Emily is obviously the most type A person on the show, and she likes the things the way she likes. She's very much this organizer, can doer, blunt as all to all ends. But I just loved them. And I felt like Richard was kind of a teddy bear, very business savvy, obviously, and that's kind of his like talent. But he was such a teddy bear in the way he loved Rory, and um, he had a few more tender moments with Lorelai. However, it comes out that Richard had been having lunches with his ex girlfriend for 40 years, and I could not believe it. And it came out. Emily gets upset, and it was like 5 or 6 episodes later, and I was like, this has not been brought up again. Like, what is going on? That we need to discuss this. And then obviously Emily and Richard go through a time of separation, and it's very sad. So I was really happy when they did get back together, and I felt like they were stronger after that. But I just like, this needs to be resolved right now because this is crazy. Luke Danes. I love him. I love Luke so much. Um, I felt like he was just a very steady, solid character throughout the show. He had his moments as well, I think in later seasons, probably like season 7, season end of season 6, early season 7. He didn't feel like completely himself, but then I felt like that it fixed itself. So but Luke, oh my gosh, I just love him. In the first season, when he goes to the hospital with Lorelai, when Richard gets sick, um, that whole episode I just love so much, and you feel their connection so strongly. Emily sees their connection from right off the bat, and you're just rooting for him and Lorelai from day one. And you're just like, please get together. When they finally do get together at the end of season 4, it was my favorite and least favorite episode, and I will get into that a little bit later. But them getting together was like this huge payoff moment, and them being together was so happy and so joyful. And I just loved Luke because he is such a guy's guy. He likes what he likes, he's very set in his ways. And he was the perfect antithesis or opposite to Lorelai. He she kind of lifted him a little bit, and he kind of grounded her, and they both really needed each other. It's also very sweet because Luke doesn't have a lot of stable family. um, he runs the diner, and he runs it exactly the way his dad had it after his dad passed away, and you can tell he misses his dad a lot. His sister's a little flighty, and he really doesn't have a lot of stable family. Lorelai is the exact same way. She doesn't have a lot of stable family. She has a terrible relationship with her parents from her end. I don't know if they see it that way, but she has a terrible relationship with her parents. Rory is really the only person in her life, but Rory is getting older and growing, and she's gonna leave. And so Luke and Lorelai are really, really solid for each other, and I thought that was really tender that they needed each other, and you could see that, and I just loved them. All right, Dean, Jess, and Logan. So I love all of Rory's boyfriends in different ways. I feel like she needed each of them for different reasons, right? Dean was her first love. She needed Dean to really open her heart to the ideal of love, I feel like, because She had seen Lorelai fail so many relationships in the past. Rory wasn't very open to it, which is why she can't tell Dean that she loves him in the first season. Second season? Whenever that episode happens. But she can't tell him she loves him because it's very scary for her. So Dean was her first love. She fell hard and she needed that. And I think she needed that kind of stability in her life at that time. Jess. Jess was interesting. I am not the biggest Jess fan. I know that is super unpopular. However, I do feel like he was good for Rory at times. I will not say his overall character was good for her. I actually think he was very bad for her at times. But she kind of needed someone to push her out of the box a little bit. She was very rigid until Jess came along. But I can't even come up with like something good that he did for her. I'm the only thing Jess did good was coming back in season 6 and saying, "Why did you drop out of Yale?" And that was it. And so many people kept telling me while I was watching the show, "You're gonna love Jess. You're gonna love him later on." And I was like, "Oh, they must date again." And then he comes back, he gives that one speech, and then he leaves and he never shows up again. And I was like, "What? That is not enough to change my opinion of this man." But I was grateful that he did that. He had a lot of growing up to do on the show. We didn't see all of that growing up, but you could tell he had gotten there by the time he's with Rory again at the end and comes back to see her. So he was good in his own way. Now, Logan. I love him so much. So I just felt like he was so lovable. He was what Lorelai and Christopher grew up as, right? Very rich, kind of silver spoon fed, but he had so much depth to him, so much love. He literally changed his whole life for Rory. I couldn't believe he loved her that much because he gave up all of his Playboy antics and he just really he was very devoted to her and gave her the space to be who she needed to be. What I couldn't believe was that he still loved her and stood by her even during the dark Rory age when she's living in the pool house and going to her grandma's clubs and things. He still stood by her and loved her. And I'm like, that is true love. That is a stand up guy because she was not herself. And he could tell. I mean, he knew her before, during, and after. And he still loved her. And I thought that was very tender. I don't know if Dean or Jess would have done the same thing. But I couldn't believe. I don't want No, this has spoilers, right? I already warned y'all that there's spoilers. I could not fathom why Rory would say no to an engagement. I could not fathom it. They had made everything work so freaking well. If Paris wouldn't have gotten in her head at the end, she would have said yes. Maybe it wasn't the right thing for her. I personally would have said yes at the drop of a hat, but what do I know? She wanted to go experience the world or something. Anyways, I just couldn't believe she said no. I wanted her to end up with him so bad. And he tried so hard to get Lorelai's acceptance, and he eventually did. That was a hard sell. He was so sweet to Luke, even though Luke was kind of a jerk to him. And yeah, oh man, Team Logan, all the way. We're going to do a whole other breakdown video with Dean, Jess, and Logan. I'm going to share my favorite episodes and moments of theirs, why I do and don't like them, and then we're going to rank them. Stay tuned for that. But the side characters, the townspeople of Stars Hollow, truly made the show for me. Babette and Miss Patty being the town gossips through all 7 seasons was hilarious and I loved it. Kirk working every job under the sun was so funny, the best gag, and I just loved Kirk. Was so endearing. Even though he was kind of a gag on the show, he was so sweet and I loved his character so much. And I don't know if that's the most popular opinion. Some people were very surprised that I liked Kirk, but I loved him. Lane, I loved in the very beginning of the show. I didn't love when Dave left. Rest in peace, Dave Rogowski. Dave Rogowski was the best boyfriend on the whole show, okay? Why did he leave? I don't know. When he left and she was still in the band, I did not like that until she got married. Then I really liked Lane and I thought it was very sweet. But I just didn't love that storyline. And I shouldn't even say I didn't like Lane. I just was very bored by that storyline in the show. And there was like a lot of other things going on that I was way more interested in. Lane was a steady character from the beginning. I just got bored of her storyline halfway through the show. I do have to say my favorite season out of them all was probably season one and season two, which I feel like is very unique for a show. I can't think of any other show that I like where season one was my favorite. I think it's very rare. Like, usually it just gets better and better. And I'm not saying Gilmore Girls didn't get better and better. There is just a charm to season one and season two that is unmatched throughout the rest of the season. And I think it's just because it's very innocent. They're kind of living in this bubble of Rory's in high school. She's best friends with Lorelai. She has an amazing boyfriend, a great best friend. The town is perfect. Luke is amazing. His funny fights with Taylor and Kirk is showing up and working all the jobs. And Miss Patty and Bebette are hilarious. And there's Miss Kim. Mrs. Kim is the best. It's this bubble of like perfection in season one and season two that just can't be matched throughout the rest of the series. Now, once Rory goes to college, just life gets so complicated, right? And she meets new people and she gets into harder things. Lorelai's going through breakups and relationships ups and downs, and her and Rory are fighting more. It's very realistic, but it's just it breaks that bubble, and it's like your emotions are going everywhere with the characters. And so it's not that I didn't like the later seasons, I just loved the charm and the perfection of season one and season two. Unpopular opinion here. My favorite episode was actually the finale of season four, when Rory and Dean sleep together and when Lorelai and Luke get together. My heart like exploded through this episode. Like, it's leading up to this. Luke is like flirting with her and they are dropping hints that they like each other. I think they've already gone on their date at this point. The inn is about to open. They're having their friends and family weekend. Kirk comes to Luke and talks about his night terrors, and so funny. And then you get to the inn, and her terrible boyfriend shows up, ex-boyfriend, and tells Luke that he's still dating Lorelai, and Luke gets so mad, and he goes to Lorelai and he goes, "Are you not getting all my hints? I never do this. I read this love book to make myself better for you, and I never do this." And she's like, "I know, I loved it," right? Like, she has no idea. And then she finds out, oh, he had told Luke this, and she's like, I'm not dating anyone." And then when he comes in to kiss her and he goes, "Will you just hold still?" And then they kiss, right? Oh, my heart exploded. I think I clapped, I cheered. I was so excited. And then when Kirk comes running down the stairs naked during one of his night terrors, I just about lost it. I was belly laughing so hard because it was so them. It was the most them moment ever. And it was that perfect bubble again, right? And you're just like, "Oh, this is amazing." And then Lorelai goes home. And Rory and Dean had just slept together, and they come out of the bedroom and Lorelai sees them, and it's just heartbreaking. At first I was like, they do love each other. Like, Rory, that's her first love. He obviously still loves her. You could tell he never really should have gotten married. You can tell the only reason he told her he was going to get married was to make her jealous. And when she didn't have a reaction, he went through with it. He really shouldn't have ever gotten married in the first place. He was still in love with Rory. Anyways, their hearts were just so binded to each other. So at first I was like, oh, like I had this like instantaneous mix of emotions, like, oh my gosh, like they love each other so much. But at the same time, marriage is so sacred and it is so special. And he had made a commitment to someone else and he had broken it, and Rory had helped him do that. And oh, it was just so heartbreaking. When Lorelai comes in and sees them, she couldn't even celebrate her moment with Luke because of that moment. Oh, it was just It was my favorite and least favorite episode of the whole series. Overall, the series ending I really liked. I cried, I bawled. I did not like that Rory said no to Logan. That was my one thing. But the last episode with Luke staying up all night to make the tent for the party because it's gonna rain, and Lorelai sneaks into Rory's room for the last time because she's about to leave, and oh, it was just tender. I just cried. I'm getting emotional thinking about it. I just cried because it was so tender, and you love these characters. And then Emily and Richard show up to the party. They have this tender moment with Lorelai telling her that all of this is not just for Rory, it's because of the woman that Lorelai is too, and that is just as special, you know. I'm literally crying. Um, I just loved this show so much. It was so good and it was so heartfelt and felt like you were living these lives with these characters. It was so tender. So overall, I did like the series ending, and then the shot of they get up in the morning and Lorelai and Rory are telling each other, "We just feel like we need more time," and it's so crazy. And you can tell, yes, it's the script, but they're also like really talking about the show ending. And then the scene with the crane and they're panning out of Luke's diner with her and Rory alone drinking coffee for the last time was so tender. I'm literally crying again. But I did find out, did you know that when they filmed that last episode, so apparently Amy Sherman Palladino, who wrote the show, she did not return for season 7. Um, so they had no idea if the ending of season 7 was going to be the series finale. It ended up being the series finale, but none of the cast, none of the crew really had that like ending moment. They had no idea. When they filmed that last scene, they had no idea if they were coming back for season 8 or not, and then it ended up getting canceled. Oh, I was just heartbroken. I was like, that is so sad. They had no idea. So rest in peace to the Gilmore Girls cast and crew. That's awful. You guys were robbed, and I'm so sorry. But I just loved the ending. I thought it was very tender, and that they chose to do that. It was the perfect ending, even though they didn't know it would be the ending. Overall, the show gets 5 out of 5 popcorn buckets. It is so good. The rewatchability is 5 out of 5. It is just the most heartfelt, tender show I think I've ever watched. And I fell in love with it so much. I love the characters, I love the town. I am so amazed by the crew and the cast who were able to deliver such heartfelt moments, to write such amazing characters. It was amazing. The characters were so fleshed out and endearing and just amazing. I can't stop saying it was just amazing. So if you have not watched Gilmore Girls, I cannot recommend it enough. Now, I will give you a warning that you will cry. It will take you to the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, and it's an emotional roller coaster, but man, is it worth it. So, such is life, right? It just mimics life so perfectly, and I think that's why people keep rewatching it because it really captures that beauty of life so well. All right, tell me in the comments below, are you a Gilmore Girls fan? What is your favorite episode or season and why? If you loved this video and this breakdown, please like this video, comment, and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. If you love character deep dives and nostalgia rewatches, please subscribe to the channel because we have a lot more coming. I'll catch you next time on Pass the Popcorn. Stay buttery, friends.